along with the supporting cast, and then Shannon Sharp still talking.
Regular pedestrian like that.
It took one night for the Memphis Grizzlies to be the most hated team in the NBA. Memphis went from a young and fun team to now being one of the most hated teams in the NBA, and I think I know why. But before I can tell you that story, I need to tell you the story about the Phoenix Suns. I need to tell you about a certain team that started this trend of teams being hated. And no, it wasn't that Suns team. Nope, it wasn't that one, and God no, it was definitely not that one. Ah, there we go, the 2020 Phoenix Suns. During the 2020 season, the NBA had to go into a bubble due to the Rona, but everyone already knows that. But what a lot of you guys may not remember is how many teams were invited to the bubble. If you statistically had a chance to make the NBA playoffs, then, well, you were invited to the bubble, and the Suns were one of those teams. Now, this Suns team was just going there just to play some games. They had no shot at the playoffs, but wait, what is this? The Phoenix Suns would be the only team in NBA history to go 8-0 in the bubble. Unfortunately, even after winning all of their games, this would mean nothing and the Phoenix Suns would go empty-handed. But this was the start of something new, because the season after, the Suns made the NBA Finals. Unfortunately for them, they would come up short, but then the following year, they'd make the playoffs, and yeah, we all know how that ends. And now we're here, where the Phoenix Suns, they started off the season pretty well, and looked like they were going to run it back, but unfortunately, at the time of recording this, they're barely under 500. Now, in all fairness, it seems like the injury bug has definitely hit them. I mean, there was a point where they had like one starter on their team. But you might be saying, why am I talking about the Phoenix Suns? They're nothing like the Memphis Grizzlies, right? Well, it's no secret that the Phoenix Suns at one point, and some would say they're still, the most hated team in the NBA. If you made a post about the Phoenix Suns being bad on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube, you were gonna get a lot of clicks. My only video on this channel with over 100,000 views is a Phoenix Suns video. That shit took 3 days to hit 100K. Oh, and I'm not the only one. There are many videos that are being made about the Phoenix Suns being hated that get loads of views. It's no secret at this point. But why are the Suns so hated? In 2020, the Suns made the bubble and they went 8-0, which no one expected. In 2021, they made the NBA Finals, but every other team was injured, so it was a fraud run, right? Okay, like they're not actually gonna be that good. It's just a cute team to watch, but eventually they're gonna go back to being mid. Despite the Suns losing in the second round to the Mavericks, I don't want it to be forgotten that Phoenix had a generally good season that year, and they were predominantly the first seed most of the season, and I came to realize this wasn't just a fun team to watch. They became a real threat in the NBA, and when the Suns became a real threat, it was no longer fun. All the antics, the fun, DeAndre Ayton taking half-court shots before the game, it was no longer fun. It's now just annoying, and just like that, the Suns are now hated. When you become a real threat to the NBA, it's no longer fun in games. Now you're a threat, so you're going to be treated as one. And I'm not going to act like, looking from an outside perspective, that the Suns' antics weren't kind of funny, but sometimes they could be considered annoying. But okay, every team does antics. That's a pretty normal thing. But I'd be lying if I told you that Phoenix was the first team to deal with this. The Golden State Warriors are a very good example of that. See, when the Warriors were just the Splash Brothers, it was fun to watch. But at one point, it no longer became entertaining. The Warriors became dangerous and they were hated. The Warriors were now the villain of the NBA, and the NBA needed something like that. And it doesn't help that they made a super team, getting arguably the best player in the NBA at the time. Now, before people try to come at me, I'm not saying the Suns and Grizzlies are anything close to the Warriors. I'm just making an example. Now, the Warriors did live up to this villain arc, but unfortunately the Suns, well, they definitely did not. And the Grizzlies, well, that's where we're at right now. Just like when Phoenix was fucking around, that was no longer fun. Now the same can be said for the Grizzlies. Ja Morant doing the gritty, the pre-game dances that they would do, all the antics on the court after getting fouled, that's apparently now bad. And from someone that's a Phoenix Suns fan, when I was watching all this go down, I now understand why people hated Phoenix. Now granted, do I think what Phoenix was doing was just as bad as Memphis? Fuck no. But I'm starting to understand it. Oh, and by the way, all the dancing and stuff that I mentioned about Memphis isn't the only reason why people hate them. This clip of Ja Morant does not help their case.
No one in the West.
Nah.
I'm fine in the West.
Oh, and by the way, that's my clip. I made that like a month ago when I was talking about Nikola Jokic, because I knew that shit was gonna come back to haunt them. Now, there's two sides to this. There's the people that hate the Grizzlies and people that love the Grizzlies. And to make that point, well, let's talk about a tweet. What are your thoughts about the Memphis Grizzlies? I quote tweeted that and I said they are what people think the Suns are, which I would say is the whole foundation to my argument for this video. My friend 2for1 would comment underneath that saying, nah, unlike the Suns, they're actually fun to watch. Now 2for1, you're my bro, you're my guy, I love you, but you've been known to have bad takes.
2for1 says no one will score 60 or more points this season.
And if I'm being honest, I think this is kind of a lazy take, because saying the Suns weren't fun to watch is kind of a lie. And if I'm being honest, I think the Suns and Grizzlies are eerily fucking similar. The Grizzlies are what the Suns were last year. They were a really, really good team. Both went on crazy winning streaks. They're young, they're gritty, but they're also fun to watch at the same time. Now, I'm not just saying 2for1 thinks this, because I know there's a bunch of people that have the same argument, but I'm just using him as an example. Hey, but go show him some love. He made a video about the Grizzlies actually today, so if you do like the Grizzlies, I think you'd enjoy that video. But now, I think we need to ask the question, why are the Grizzlies so hated? And how did it take one night? Because the Grizzlies were on what, like a 13-game winning streak, and that didn't all happen in one night. The antics, the dancing, all that stuff, that didn't happen in one night. That Ja Morant clip was like a month ago. Well, let's talk about it. It's the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. And the Lakers, despite being one of the worst teams in the NBA, they're definitely making a push to be better. Oh, and this is on national television. Now, there are 4 key characters in this story that I need to explain. We got Ja Morant. We all know Ja Morant, and Dylan Brooks, his teammate. We also have Usher, I mean Ja Morant's dad, T. Morant. And then we have Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe is a Hall of Fame tight end. He's a TV analyst, and he works for Undisputed, which, despite me hating the NBA media, I'd argue that's my favorite show if we're going off the media. Okay, so I told you about these 4 people, but what do they all have to do with each other? See, at the start of the third quarter, the ESPN broadcast showed something interesting. As Dylan Brooks was walking off the court, he started to have words with Shannon Sharpe, who was courtside. Oh, and by the way, Shannon Sharpe is an avid LeBron supporter. Then Ja started saying stuff to him, and Steven Adams had to intervene. Then out of nowhere, Usher does the cha-cha slide to talk shit to Shannon Sharpe because, well, he was talking to his son. So I'm not mad at him for doing that. Shannon Sharpe would then be escorted away from the game for a while. He would do an interview with ESPN at halftime, because this is when this actually occurred. But then Shannon Sharpe came back. He did apologize to T. Morant, which is cool, but then after the game, things got interesting. Ja Morant was actually very humble about it. He didn't say much. He said that he was going to let them do them, but then Dylan Brooks had something to say.
Is that what happened?
No, I told him he missed the shot. That's all.
You think it's appropriate for a fan to kind of go back and forth with you guys like that?
A regular pedestrian like him? No.
Listen, I hate a lot of people, and I mean a lot, and a lot of people. And one of those people has to be Dylan Brooks. And it definitely didn't help my case when Dylan Brooks said this about Shannon Sharpe. I'm going to keep my composure because I'm a professional, but fuck you, Dylan Brooks. Now, don't get me wrong, as much as a lot of people might hate this team, the Grizzlies are still proving they're a good team. In fact, I'd say they're a great team. Yeah, the sorry Lakers beat them, but they were on a 13-game win streak. It's just one game. In fact, the Grizzlies would have won that game if Dennis Schroeder didn't have a game-saving steal. So despite this one loss, Memphis might have an argument for being the best team in the Western Conference. But how are they so good? And I want to remind people that a month ago, no one was really talking about the Grizzlies. I find it interesting that a month ago, I called it that Memphis was going to be a really good team, and a month later, here we are. They might be hated, and to be honest, I'm kind of on the fence about them right now, but god damn it, they're a good basketball team. And if you want to know why the Grizzlies are so dominant, then you need to watch this video.